Hello YouTube and hello LinkedIn. Welcome to this new episode of Unleash Your Green Gorilla, my LinkedIn live series, which is also on YouTube, as just was saying. So today I'm really delighted to be joined by Rhian Sherrington, who is the founder of the Women in Sustainability Network. And so Rhian, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about you?
Thank you. Well, hello everybody. Hello, Virginia. Thank you very much for inviting me onto your LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. I'm the founder of the Women in Sustainability Network, which is all about helping female change makers access a powerful community. I'm a coach, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm basically very passionate about bringing together professional women, women who are running their own businesses, who are very purpose-led, trying to change our world to the better, and bring them all together so they can connect and learn from one another. So I guess that's kind of what I do.
Brilliant, fantastic. And by the way, our connection is that I'm also the leader for Hertfordshire, the Women in Sustainability Network hub here, the local network, since August, I think. And hello, Sarah, who's saying hello. Please, guys, whoever is online, feel free to say hello and ask us questions as we chat today, very relaxedly, well, that word doesn't exist, about the role of women in sustainability. So, Rhian, what do you reckon is the role of women in sustainability? So it's a big question. We can break it down, but what's your take on this?
Okay, so I would say number one top role for women in sustainability is actually to be themselves, actually to show up and be themselves and to own their strengths, own their talents, and get out there and create change. I think we live in a world that's still designed and led predominantly by men, but we're 50% of the population, right? And we're not going to solve the climate emergency, our ecological crises, without women playing their full part in the decision-making leadership processes. First number one role for women's sustainability is to be fully themselves, embrace themselves and the strengths that they bring, and get in there and allow themselves to have that impact and to have that voice that they need to have.
Great. So first of all, let me just say hello to a few people that are actually in the chat. Justin, hi, thank you. You're not a woman, but you're super welcome. And hello from St. Albans, so fellow St. Albanese. Hello, Maria, thank you. And hello, Anna. Thank you for, they said a great initiative. So these strengths then, what makes us unique? Because sometimes, what I've seen in my own experience, I think you increase in confidence with time and age, but I've seen in my own experience, it's very hard to speak up when you are in a male-dominated environment and to speak up for your values sometimes. So it's harder to think about our strengths in that sense. So what do you think our unique strengths are as women?
Well, obviously it's hard to, we want to be careful of overgeneralizing because I feel that there are, when we talk about feminine and masculine qualities, they exist in both men and women. But what I would say that these feminine qualities that a lot of women exhibit has been demonstrated by quite a lot of studies now that you can read about in Forbes magazine or Harvard Business Review. But they all say that these attributes that these feminine qualities bring is empathy, compassion, the ability to really listen, to seek out ways of collaborating. We negotiate for the greater good. I find this really fascinating looking at some of the studies that talk about women holding on to their values for longer than men do. So when you bring all of that together, I think this feminine attributes, these qualities that women often bring, allow for that kind of decision-making process which really thinks far broader maybe than that singular view, and so I think that's the kind of things I would talk. That's what I'd always see. That I see reflected in a lot of our women in the Women's Sustainability Network. The speakers who've come and talked about their careers, they've talked about their unique contributions, and they always seem to come down to those kind of characteristics that I've just mentioned. This ability to seek consensus, to hold the wider picture in mind. But again, I would stress that those can exist in men as well. But what we do see is when women are able to be there in maybe even the majority, but certainly when there's equality there in terms of representation, men are also more able to bring those qualities to bear, which makes for better decision making.
I would agree with you. We've seen it, for example, I hosted one of the events in September for Women in Sustainability. It was all about the unique strengths of women, and actually picking up from the fact that in the first wave of COVID, so in the spring, many of the women leading states, so like Jacinda Ardern and others around the world, managed to keep the contagions down, managed to keep the death rate down because of certain unique strengths they have compared to their male counterparts. And I think this came up from the event, the empathy element, the connection, the communication as well, the fact that we are perhaps better at putting together the dots sometimes. And I think these are, as you said, it's not unique to women as such. Many men can do that as leaders. It's just maybe some others have to really find that element in them and embrace it a bit more.
Sure. And I think what's interesting, there's a lot of discussion, isn't there, about strength and warmth, and how it's such a fine balancing act for women, because if we appear too strong, we're cold, or we're bossy and we're inappropriate, and if we're too warm, we're just seen as wishy-washy and get other descriptions, but we can't be too cold either. So I think women have a lot of juggling that's always going on internally, whereas men can actually, it doesn't really matter, they seem to get away with it a lot more. They don't seem to have to worry so much. And I see this a lot in the women leaders that I speak to, is there is this internal dialogue, always evaluating this juggle that they're doing, which is exhausting, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely.
And I've also seen, for example, some women pretending to be men as such, so trying to embrace the male way of dressing even, and wearing suits in order to fit in with the boys. But I think our unique strengths in terms of, the things that we just discussed can actually take us, in a way, we don't need to make comparisons, I think, in my view anyway. We bring to the table different points of view, and that's the richness.
Absolutely. And I think this is what all of this fits into the whole wider diversity argument, isn't it? That actually the number one thing we should all be looking out for is really valuing the difference that people bring, because all of us have got unique strengths that we bring to the table. And the problem is actually it's hard to negotiate that kind of difference. But those people who can find that consensus and use that willingness to collaborate can find that way to bring it all together and make it work. But when we're clear on our strengths, that's great. Or we can see and value the strengths in others, that's really important. But we need to also find those skills to enable us to be able to bring all of that together. Because, let's face it, the world is incredibly divisive at the moment. You can just see what's going out in America. And actually, we also need women to sort of use these strengths more and more to understand, yes, it is difficult to bring that diversity together, but we can do it. We're very good at it. And that's something we should be celebrating and putting ourselves forward to do.
In that sense, I'm super happy that Kamala Harris has been elected as VP in the USA. I'm hoping, she will bring that diversity element, that, uniqueness that can help exactly that balancing. Now, just looking at the chat, which is becoming quite populated. So Sarah saying, what matters is balance. Masculine and feminine energies and strengths combined is where the magic happens. Completely agree.
And absolutely, and I think the only problem we've had, I think, is that there's just been this imbalance. There's been too much masculine, and you mentioned, the women who put their armor on to go to work. This trying to fit into something that's not quite them, and then you overdo it. Then, so that's why you can see women being too aggressive. They're not being assertive because maybe they've never seen somebody be properly assertive. They don't know what to model on. So I totally agree, but we've also got to recognize and value our other qualities that we bring. And I often talk to people about dialing up and dialing down. So we women are really intuitive. It's rare a woman I meet that hasn't got this quality to instantly understand, okay, this is what I need to do in that situation, and to dial up maybe a bit more assertiveness, a bit more directness, but then to say, actually now I need to be a bit more compassionate or have that empathy and step back and listen. So absolutely, it's about balance, but it's also about learning to trust yourself, to use that intuition to then feel your way in that situation. And Beth Thoren, who I spoke to a little while back, unique insight. She really got that. She understands how to do that. And Beth Thoren is the deputy, she's the deputy CEO of Client Earth, a very good example of how somebody's managing the balance between the masculine and the feminine energies.
And I think you touched on a very important point, the assertiveness point, which I see women struggling a lot, no matter where they are in the position. And again, because probably we don't have enough role models, and in the highest positions anyway, that we can learn from. I mean, of course, we got women at home, we might have women in school, but it's very rare to see women in power that we can emulate or admire as such. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the key drivers with what we do, isn't it, within the Women's Sustainability Network, is it's always been about how can we bring to the fore relatable role models so that women can be inspired by how they're being. I mean, I did not have early modeling at all. I would say with my mum, wonderful as she is, but she was aggressive if she had to be assertive. She couldn't really do that assertive, and I was dreadful at it. I personally don't like conflict at all, and I've had to really learn to understand how to be assertive with a smile, and not to feel so terrible. Oh, I should have said yes to that person, and so on.
I got the same problem. Look, I have a mum who is not assertive at all, and she's lovely and warm and everything, but she's lucky on the other side. And so for me, when I actually showed a bit more of my personality growing up, I was, I had an etiquette, a label, because I was being too much of it. I didn't know how to balance the thing. And so hopefully now I'm managing to more,
and I find it fascinating because I've got an assertive daughter. She's almost 12, and but I find it fascinating. And like she's good at what she does, and she'll say that she's good at what she does. But there are people in her, let's say the family sphere, who it's not appropriate to say that you're good. And that's the thing that we've been conditioned, and you certainly had that conditioning. I had that conditioning. Yes, you can be good, but don't say that you're good. You're not allowed to say that you're good. Well, why can't we say that we're good? Why can't we claim that space? Men do. We know, and we see all of that, don't we, in terms of women not putting themselves forward for opportunities. Yeah. So, absolutely finding these inspiring role models to learn from, and then if it's not obvious, to really, to go looking for these people, I think can be so helpful. I'm still looking. I still get very inspired when I meet women who I think, wow, you really are combining this warmth and this strength in such a beautiful way, but you've clearly done the inner work, I think. And Cristina Ferreras talks about this in her book, Surviving the Climate Crisis. She talks about women should go and seek out other women, look at networks, but do this inner work so that you can show up how you want to show up. And we've got a lot of programming, unfortunately, that we've got to overcome. Most women, I think, not everyone, but most women have got a lot of programming because of the society we've been born into, to overcome some of these barriers which prevent us from using our strengths and creating the change that we want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Justin is saying we all need to learn to say we're good. Blowing our own trumpets is hard for many men and women, which is true. You know, we're making generalizations here, but I know for sure a few men that also struggle to, because we've been taught to be modest and humble, but then sometimes, you know, you need to get, you know, your strengths out and to just say, and also to connect with your values, I think, and that's, you know, reconnected to sustainability. If values is what you live by, like sustainability is a value for me, it is for you as well, then we need to embody that and show. And I think for me, for example, as a woman, it's important to show others what I believe. And, you know, we don't know the ripple effect, what marvelous, consequences it will have, even just by, you know, doing what you're saying that you believe in. I think it will show others, our children, but also others around us, that we can do it.
Definitely. And there is some really interesting work out there that around confidence, for example, and a great matrix that it talks about, you know, you can be really confident but incompetent. And which we see clearly examined, demonstrated, surprising enough, in several areas of leadership, that without naming any names. But when they look at the gender split, there's more men in that category than there are women. And that's the research. I can't pronounce his name. Thomas Presmuk, I think, is his name. And it talks about the gap, the confidence gap that exists between men and women. So that's what we're having to deal with, I think, is and then we think we have to be this artificial, shouty, confident type. Well, no, we don't need to do that. We just need to make sure we get competent and to get the right kind of feedback and not take it personally, and then to develop our skills so that then we can be properly confident and competent and show up doing the work.
But I think, you know, Rhian, I think the world is changing, and I'm glad to say that in that sense. You know, we got all these women head of states or, you know, strong figures that actually are embodying these characteristics, going from Michelle Obama, who's not head of state, but she's a wonderful, you know, role model for many. Jacinda Ardern, we mentioned, Christiana Figueres, which you mentioned as well. Women who are strong, but yet they're not horrible. Do you know what I mean? Is that they're not arrogant. You know, they embody the perfect strong female with all her strengths, but put into something meaningful. So I think from that point of view, I think that's wonderful that we do have now a few women that we can look up to.
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely improving without a doubt. I think sustainability has always been a sector that's really attracted women into it. It's getting better. The gender gap is getting better. It's still a long way to go. I think when you look at the environmental sector, the more sort of techie side, I think it's the lack of diversity there is only one above farming, which is all white male in the UK. So there's still some big things that need to change. But I think you're definitely right. The wind is blowing in our direction. And I think, golly, when I first started out many years ago, when I was doing my master's in environmental management, there was nobody I could look to. You know, it was very much a very male-dominated environment. So it's fantastic that it's changing, but there's still an awful lot of work to do, I think.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Now, looking at the chat again, Elisabetta is saying, I find in the work environment, it's difficult to find good female managers. It seems that very often they feel the pressure of performing, which makes them being too harsh as a result of feeling insecure in their position. It's a cultural issue to overcome, hopefully with time. What do you reckon?
Definitely. I see that. When I coach people, right, definitely managing your manager, I think for most people can be a struggle, but sometimes it's really difficult then as a woman to have the other woman, your boss, being the one that's being really tricky. And I think, learning to be assertive and calling it out in a nice way is a good way forward. That's why there's some wonderful work to be done when you look at behavioral preferences, for example, understanding people's communication styles, understanding what they might be afraid of. I think you can use that intuition then and that insight to try and work around it. and also be, you know, sort of encourage, maybe asking for management training yourself so that you can then prompt the organization to understand. I think it's no longer an excuse. Poor management, you know, it needs to be called out, absolutely, if it's there. It does feel tricky when it, you know, how do you approach that as a woman? But I think it needs to be called out, and I think it needs to be, you know, you need to take action on it, not just tolerate it, because you'll get a point where you can't tolerate it anymore. And then you might do something a bit rash. So yeah.
No, I agree. And I had awful female managers in my past, which is a shame to say, but I think they were also under pressure, you know, like Elisabetta just said, it's lots of juggling in their mind about who they are and what they have to look like and all of that stuff. So justifying it that way. Teams consider diversity and inclusion, gender equality thrive with higher performance and creativity in every business function, sustainability included. Yeah, I think when you do have diversity and inclusion, teams work better. That's for, you know, that's a given, that's for sure.
Definitely.
So looking at sustainability, because we said, you know, the world is changing, but then we've seen like COP26 being entirely men, you know, representing the UK in that.
Not they are. They've just put one woman on it.
Oh, okay. So
it's just announced start of the week. Yes. So we've been Women's Sustainability been promoting two petitions. One by Care International, She Leads in Crisis, which, and then also the Change.org petition launched by Sian Conway from Ethical Hour. Both of those petitions were handed in on Monday, and the government knew that they had to do something, so they've just appointed, I think it's Anne-Marie Trevelyan MP, who's going to come in as like an ambassador role. So there is one woman, one white woman, that will be part of the UK panel. It's still not enough, to be honest. Women, that you're in a minority in a white panel of men. We know from the research women need to be more than one to fully be able to speak your voice and speak out. So there's still pressure to be done there, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think now that you're saying that, I read this morning on the paper said that she was actually supporting fracking.
Oh yeah, don't even go there.
Maybe not.
Let's just face it. I mean, you know, does it have any of them got the right backgrounds to be representing us at that table? You know, so there's lots to be said by everybody on that panel. So what can we do? You know, I think, can we offer our support? Can we get in there with the support groups? I think there's a lot more that we need to keep talking, pushing, you know, getting in there, because they're going to need all the help they can, as far as I can see, in terms of knowing their stuff, because they've got a lot of reading to do.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the Women in Sustainability Network, because my personal experience is when I realized this thing was there from LinkedIn, actually was Talia, who is in charge of the Oxford hub, and she was talking about these events and stuff, and I felt fascinated because I never really never thought, you know, a group of, you know, such a group exists. So, and then I got in touch with you, and now I'm in charge of the Hertfordshire hub. Tell me more about this. What is the strength of this network, and what can it do to change things for the better? What do you reckon?
Well, I think the strength of it is that we bring women together who share the same values, share the same purpose. We're here to make the world a greener, happier, healthier place. You know, we're delivering against the SDGs. So straight away, that values based container, that's the safety net for all of us. So we share that. And then it's about creating what I guess the academics would talk is a safe psychological space. So, I mean, you know, and this is what I always say, it's not that we're anti-men. We are not, absolutely not. We've just been talking about diversity and all of that. But actually for women, when you create a safe psychological space, you know, that happens fairly easy when you bring a group of women together. And there is a different type of conversation that happens, which is magical, because I think when you see, I mean, looking at the feedback you had from your very first event, Virginia, you know, you demonstrated it beautifully with that. The women were inspired. inspired, they were engaged, they were making new connections, meaningful connections that they could then go and follow up with LinkedIn. They were growing their professional network, which is, never more so so important. Even now, we can still do this online. It's better in person, I think, but we can still do this online, and you demonstrated that so well with your events. So the network's all about bringing women together. We've been doing it now virtually. Everybody's our hub leads. I'm so excited by you all, because you've all got lots of unique strengths and talents that you bring to your role. So there's real thought leadership within the team who are running all the different hubs. And you make it possible for women to have those meaningful conversations, which will then can nurture their purpose, keep them inspired, and hopefully amplify their voice. Because it's all about giving a place to practice, to learn, to then go back into your workspace and to practice the stuff that you find out about, and to reach out and to connect with other women, to keep up your motivation, find new ideas. And we know from the feedback, we've been running now for about 5 years. We started in Bristol with me running a little hub there. Then we went to London, and then we went to Oxford, and now we've grown. We've got our first hub out in the States in New York, and we've got our first European hub out in Frankfurt. So there seems to be something that we're doing right, because people are enjoying what we do, and it's very coaching led, I'd say, in terms of how we get that conversation going. But it is about bringing women together who are purpose-led, but with this purpose, which we talk about is, growing your network, nurturing your purpose, and amplifying your impact and your voice through this women-only space. And we've also got, we've got lots of things happening next year, but I think that's what a good network should be. And it's interesting, because I think at the start of the year, we brought everybody together, all the hub leads, and the feedback we'd done some research with Newcastle University Business School. They were doing some research on the impact of the network. And what came back very clearly was, you're not a network, you're a community. And I love that. That was just real. That's why we're here, is to offer that community. And I think, especially now when we're feeling the isolation, where many people are back in lockdown or in some kind of restriction, so we need to find our community. We need to be reaching out and connecting with our community. And even if you get a little bit of Zoom fatigue, your next event, for example, people need to come, because they're going to get that buzz, which we're all missing, and we learn good stuff on the back of it as well.
Fantastic. I mean, I love the community aspect of it. I am really looking forward to growing more of the regional aspect of it, like the locality, because I think that's something that, having started my hub midway through this mess, I haven't got that really strong. But I think even in itself, like you said, catching up and having that safe space where to express yourself, I think is amazing. I love the events that we put up. Now, someone that unfortunately I can't see the name because it says just LinkedIn user, I think it's because of the settings. I say, within my network and experience, the women I interact with are doing a fantastic job of driving the sustainability agenda. Your leadership is amazing. Your nurturing of teams is enviable. Your collaboration skills and openness to new ideas drives innovation. And I don't believe we would be this far down the sustainability road without the unique strengths that you all bring. Thank you. I mean, this is amazing. Thank you.
Whoever that is, that is
whoever you are. Thank you so much.
From all the women's sustainability right back to you. That's so lovely to receive. But isn't that, I just wish more women would get that feedback, because sometimes we don't get that feedback at all, do we? So, but isn't that lovely?
Fantastic, thank you. And also, there is a question, and then maybe we can talk, quickly about the, the event that is coming up. But Conrad Moore, thank you, Conrad. Thank you. Someone is actually explaining who that was. Thank you, Conrad. Maria is asking, could you recommend some inspiring books on women in sustainability, role models, etc.? I think you mentioned Christiana Figueres' book, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yes. I've got it right here. I seem to be just clutching that one.
The future we choose, absolutely.
There was a really interesting essay-based book that WWF came out last year, like why women will save the planet. I think it's something like that. Why women will save the planet. But it's a collection of essays from really brilliant women, different leadership. Mary Robinson, the ex-Irish president, she's got a chapter in there. But I'd really recommend that. That was produced by WWF. I find it really inspiring, and it's really easy to dip into because it is little thought pieces from women around the world, which I found really, really good. We need to do more ourselves, actually. I would also recommend our back catalogue of interviews on the Women's Sustainability website, because we've got a lot of women there who are sharing their stories, from women kind of starting out all the way through to thought leaders. So I'd recommend our website, our blog, to give that a little plug, womensustainability.net. And go and have a look at the blog. Lots of interviews there. I can't think of any more right now, but I know there's
Maria's suggesting my book, which is very kind. Thank you, Maria. Well, let me plug that in then. Sustainable: How to Find Success as a Sustainability Professional in a Rapidly Changing World. And did I know last year when I wrote the book that the world is really rapidly changing? But thank you, Maria, for saying that. I really appreciate it. So on the 24th, I'm hosting the next event of the Women in Sustainability Network. There are others as well in that week, but since the interview is with me, I got curious about fashion and sustainable fashion, not because I particularly care in a way. I think I used to care a lot more when I was in my 20s, you know. But I think it's an important, we all have to put clothes on, and so we might as well choose them carefully for the impact they have. I think the pivotal moment for myself was when I heard Livia Firth talking about the impact of fast fashion, especially the ethical impact on communities that rely on this to survive, but at the same time they are slaves. Effectively, you know, there is slavery, there's a slavery issue there. But also in my mastermind, the Sustainable Mastermind that I run, there is one woman, Heather Scott, who won a competition with My Wonder, sorry, lots of names there, but with a project to launch basically an international platform to swap clothes instead of buy new. And so she won this competition. One of the prizes was to be in my mastermind. And so we got talking, and she's presenting at the event on the 24th, which is called Planet Fashion. And how can we dress sustainably, fashionably, and affordably? Because I think one of the problems, let's say, of dressing fashionably is actually, and sustainably, is spending money. Because all this, you know, the Patagonia of this world and other brands seem to be more expensive, because they do take into consideration the carbon impact or the, you know, the human impact of making these clothes. So I'm really interested to see what comes up with that discussion with Heather, but also with Rachel Kahn, who is a designer, sustainable designer, who's been in fashion for about 20 years, I think. So, and I know you already run some events last year about fashion. So what's your take on that?
I think it's one of those core areas that we can really take control over, what we spend our money on. And as women, you know, we do want to look good, we want to feel good, and we want to know our money is going in the right place. And I think but we can also get a bit tired though. We can get tired of it, and get a sense of where, you know, confusion, what's the best choice, where do I go? So I think both of those two events last year were so well attended. The discussions were brilliant, and I certainly came away super inspired. I actually hosted one myself in Bristol, and it's a shame we can't do a virtual swap, but maybe the global download, doing it virtually, the clothes sharing, swapping there would be brilliant. But I think it's something that I really recommend to everybody to attend this one, because, you know, it's these little things, isn't it, that remind us how influential we are. And sometimes we forget, as sustainability professionals, it's not just our work, it's also everything else that's going on. You know, our personal choices really matter. And I'm conscious, you know, hopefully I'm bringing up my kids to appreciate it. But I do have this daughter who's, she used to be pulled into Primark, and I'd be going, no, we're not going there. We're not going there. So it's, I think bringing some women together to discuss it, and then the broader conversations you'll have around this, I know will be really, really helpful for everybody, because it's not just about thinking about yourself, it's thinking about what you're buying for your family. How do you influence other people in your life that then can also have this ripple effect. But yeah, I don't have the stats to hand, but we do have a couple of articles on this on our website. But it is a core area, and so it's something certainly people should engage with, even if it's got nothing to do with your work at all. Just attend, just because it is such an important part of choosing where we spend our money and our focus.
The other thing about fashion for me personally, and I've been in sustainability for 16 years, is that I actually didn't know about all of the impact. I really didn't know until I got into it. And, as I said, the talk by Livia first started me on this. Mm-hmm. And then, there is really a lot of hidden truth underneath that we really don't know about. And so I think for this event, I would like to, raise awareness on the issue, but also showing that there are solutions that are not necessarily, spending a fortune on your clothes, but there are so many alternatives that you can use to, still feel good and dress appropriately and, fashionably if you want.
And that's, I remember the one we looked at, I had the lady from Soil Association talking about the difference between certified organic and people who claim that they're sustainable cotton or whatever. And, cotton has this massive wastage of water resources. It's the impact the cotton industry have is huge. So I think to be able to just get yourself to think, well, yes, I know perhaps I need to buy cotton clothing because of I'm not washing any microplastics down the drain in my washing machine. But where's that cotton coming from? So I think it's kind of getting down to the nitty gritty. I think we'll love in that conversation you'll be hosting, Virginia, because that's when you discover, oh, actually, maybe there's more I can do here than I realized, and that's so empowering.
And absolutely, picking up on a point you said before, we are all consumers in a way, and we have that power. So especially women, I read, they still detain the majority of the consumer power because we buy usually, in general and on average, we buy more every day for our families. So we do have that power. We might as well use it in the right way. So Justin was echoing what you were saying about cotton. And it's also not just about the water, it's also about the pesticides that gets, sprayed on, and they are damaging for our health, but also for the health of the workers. So there is a lot. We're going to talk about all of this, but I really want to focus on the solutions and what we can do to make conscious decisions and change the world with the power that we have, starting from the little choices that we have every day, like buying a t-shirt and for some food, like Louise is saying, lots and lots of things that we can change in our everyday life.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I love about, the more I've been doing the Women's Sustainability Network, the more I love the fact that we are just not a moaning shop. It's always about solutions. This is about, we're under a lot of anxiety, we're under a lot of pressure, that there is so much uncertainty. But to come together and, yes, there might be a little bit of unburdening, but it's all about the ways forward, which I really love. And that was my hope right from the beginning, because I've never been like this woman only thing at all. So I'm quite surprised I do this. It's amazing what you end up doing. But I also don't really appreciate groups where it's all about, let's have a good old moan. And that sometimes can happen when you're just stuck in your sector or your work, if you've got trapped into those kind of conversations. So that's why I love the fact that it is about recognizing the shifts that you can do and finding those solutions, because it is complicated. But, it's when you talk it through with somebody, that's when the real magic can happen, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one last comment from Suzanne saying, from a cotton provenance perspective, Stacey Dooley's Fashion 30 Secrets is very illuminating. I'm not familiar with that, but I will definitely check it out. Yeah, and Louise is saying, totally agree. I want to know about initiatives to support and recommend to friends. Absolutely. Come on board, Louise. Hello, Louise, by the way. Louise and I used to work together. So I can see lots of friends or people that I've worked with in the past that I'm super happy they're supporting me. Come on board. And, she has a teenage daughter, Louise, so it's great to, again, show them and explain them, how they can also contribute for, a better world, because kids are so aware these days. I think, they're joining the dots now.
Definitely.
So, Rhian, any final thoughts on this? And, how can people get in touch? So you mentioned the website.
Sure. Okay, so website is womeninsustainability.net. So come and find us. You can sign up to be on our newsletter, find out about when people like Virginia are doing their amazing events. Come and also find us on LinkedIn. And we've got a private LinkedIn group with over almost 2,500 female professionals in this space. So you'll be very welcome. Yeah, just search it. I can't give you a quick little thing, but Women's Sustainability LinkedIn group, you'll find us. Ask to be accepted. We'll check you out just a little bit, and then you can come on in. That's the two main ways. We've also got our company page in LinkedIn, which you could follow us there. Come and say hello to me on LinkedIn if you're watching and we're not connected. Come and connect with me as well. But I think if you get onto our newsletter, that's a really good step forward, because then you'll get to hear what's happening with our events. You can see all our events on the website. We've just closed our membership hub to new subscribers, but you can come onto our waiting list. So if you do womensustainability.net/subscribe, that'll tell you a bit more about our membership hub as well. But that's it for me. It's been a fantastic conversation, Virginia. Thank you very much for having me on LinkedIn Live with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope all our viewers with the conversation have as well. It's been great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I can see comments keep on coming, but keep on coming, because people will watch this on repeat as well, on recorded. Lots of suggestions for programs and books. So fantastic conversation as well in the chat today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope to see you on the 24th, of course, for the Planet Fashion event that I'm hosting. You can look it up on Eventbrite or on my page as well, because there is a LinkedIn event being created there, so you can see that. And and thank you, Rhian, of course. Thank you for being the promoter of such an amazing initiative. And I hope to see you very soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.